According to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, 2.2 million adults were either in federal or state prisons in the year of 2013. 2013 was the last year that the Bureau released any statistics, and they also stated that 90% of their prison systems were overloaded between 90 and 120% capacity. This means that the prison system is overloaded, overpopulated, and draining more and more money from taxpayers. Now, the average cost for a prisoner is $31,286 annually. Many prisons look like this. Overpopulated areas that are very common for people to live in. Now, overcrowding of prisons cost more in taxpayers' money, are a security risk for inmates and the correctional staff. They encourage repeat offenders, they encourage gang affiliations, and they encourage the spread of deadly diseases like hepatitis C. Now, there's 3 reasons behind this overcrowding. 1 is the increase in drug imprisonment and duration of these imprisonments. 2 is the decrease in the release from prison. And 3, the reincarceration of parole violations. Now, within the federal prison system alone, 46% of the inmates are incarcerated for drug offenses. This came from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, and it's updated monthly. This last update was from January, so they're a little behind. So the drug offenses, Class E, is at 46%. The next highest percentile, almost 17%. Weapons, explosives, and arson. Now, these drug charges, they vary based on the type of your drug, the weight of the drug, and how many prior convictions you have. And these federal mandation laws, they've passed on a little bit into the state guidelines. For example, Kentucky, they adopted similar mandation minimum laws, and they have some of the toughest provisions in the country. For a simple possession charge, a first offender is likely to get between 2 and 10 years of prison and a fine of $20,000. Now, in retrospect, California has some of the lightest drug possession charges, between $30 and $500 fines, and between 15 and 180 days in jail. Now, I think we can all agree that since a few states have legalized marijuana, the crime of marijuana is less serious for society. Now, the court system would disagree. In fact, in Oklahoma, you are 6 times more likely to be arrested for a simple possession charge of marijuana than in the state of Maine. The lax laws in Maine versus the serious ones in Oklahoma send a very mixed message to people. Now, I want to establish a difference between jails and prisons. Jails are often county by county, and this is where small time is served, usually 90 days or less, and this is where unconvicted inmates are held. Prison is where long-term, convicted individuals serve their time. Usually this is between 90 days or longer. Now, 60% of the population in jail are unconvicted inmates. That's 450,000 unconvicted inmates across the jail in America. Innocent or not, you're expected to pay sometimes thousands of dollars simply so you don't have to sit in jail. You haven't even been able to prove your innocence or if you have been guilty yet. Simply being in there, you are at risk of losing your job, losing custody of your children, you lose income, and you lose your credibility, whether or not you were guilty or not. Now, 50% of those unincarcerated inmates cannot afford their posted bail. This means they are thrown into the system, and that they are stuck there until they can prove their innocence. Now, prisons and jails are also a cesspool of diseases. According to the CDC, 1 in 3 inmates have hepatitis C. Hepatitis C transfers like wildfire in prisons. Even with the medical care that is available at the prisons, some people don't even show symptoms between 20 and 30 years after contracting hepatitis C. Now, we need to reduce the crowding in prisons. They've become a death pit, a money pit, and a disease pit. The solution to this overcrowding is not just to build more prisons and to make them bigger, larger, and better. We need to save the millions that we're spending on our prison system. And we need to, by doing this, we will reduce the sentencing of nonviolent crimes. We need to remove life sentences for juveniles, regardless of the offense. And we need to create more drug rehabilitation facilities that actually work. Now, for violent offenders whom are released, depending on the severity, should also be continued to do anger management classes for at least a year after their release. The transition from prison life to civilian life can be traumatic and it needs to be done. Saving this money that we're spending on each individual inmate in the system would allow for money to be able to be spent on the people who really actually need rehabilitation. By reducing bail or completely eliminating bail on non-violent charges, you're offering real help and support for the inmates that are still incarcerated. You'll be opening up availability in areas, and you'll be opening up the sections of which these people are held in these horrible conditions, like I showed you before. It will allow and help the safety for these inmates and their correctional facility staff. Conditions like that are unconstitutional and have many times been fought and sued against with the prison system, and the inmate has won because it is a safety concern of themselves, it's a concern of their health, it's a concern of their general being. It is unconstitutional to keep these inmates in these sections. We need to reduce these sentences. We need to be able to give these people hope and resend this money into areas that can actually do some good and reduce the overcrowding in our prison systems. This is important.